This is Tracy and Andy once again shedding some light on the intricacies of the human condition. So go on, why the creepy sound effects?
Well, as if you didn't know, today's podcast is all about fear.
Is that because you're so fearless?
Mostly because it's a subject I know quite a bit about.
Yeah, what's that, your shadow?
Ooh, what?
Yeah. I think you've been asking people on social media, and anyone else who's still talking to us, about what makes them scared?
Yes, I asked what makes them scared in everyday life and what is the scariest movie they've ever seen.
You don't watch scary movies?
No, I don't. When I was a child, I saw some bits of Hammer horror films through the gaps in my fingers. The scariest one had something to do with a really creepy old toy shop, and somehow the owner was shrinking people down and trapping them inside dolls. It was a bit like the House of Wax, but slightly creepier. I also remember seeing a trailer of The Birds once too.
Just the trailer?
Yeah, that was enough. What about you? Have you ever been scared by a movie?
No, of course not. Well, maybe when I was very young. Actually, there was a time when my cousin came to stay over and we had to toss a coin to see who got to sleep upstairs in the bed and who got to sleep on the couch downstairs. I lost. Yeah, and then we got to stay up late at night and we watched a film called The Thing. Not the modern one with the fabulous special effects, but an old black and white version with a creepy man in a monster suit.
Ooh.
Yeah, somehow that was just as disturbing. But that night, on the sofa, in the dark, it was horrible.
Oh, one of our volunteers had a similar story about a film called Invaders from Mars that involved pulling people underground and drilling into their necks. Then he had to walk home down a dark alleyway. He says he's never forgotten it.
Yeah, I see there's a couple of rather unpleasant slasher movies people have mentioned.
Yeah, why do we do it to ourselves?
I have a feeling you're going to tell me.
Okay, well, one theory is that it is simply a form of thrill-seeking, a bit like bungee jumping or people who go on roller coasters.
Okay, so I'm guessing there's other reasons.
Yeah, some psychologists think it's a way of exploring strong emotions but in a controlled environment. Others suggest that by focusing our emotions on a scary movie, we are distracting ourselves from other fears and anxieties that maybe we don't want to confront.
Okay, so how does our exploration of scary movies help people with their everyday fears?
Well, I'm no Cedric Freud.
Sigmund?
No, Cedric. He was a plumber from Acton, and he used to say that if you could remember scary movies years after you've seen them, it was probably because you had absorbed those emotions deeply into your psyche, which could later connect with events of everyday life.
So, Cedric Floyd, a plumber from Acton, used to say that, did he?
Well, maybe not. But I would draw your attention to two such examples from our lovely volunteers. Firstly, the story of Invaders from Mars, watched by a young lad who, on leaving the cinema, had to walk home alone down dark, scary alleyways, thus reinforcing the emotions from the film, which therefore probably had much more of an impact. The same man, he's no longer a young lad, has everyday fears today of vulnerability, insignificance and loss of mobility.
Okay, but these fears are also common fears in many people as they age.
Yes, they are, and he might be feeling this way even if that film hadn't had such an impact on him as a youngster. But if the trigger has been embedded since that earlier time, changing the way he recalls the movie and subsequently the walk home afterwards might also change the way he feels about his vulnerability today.
Okay, you said two examples.
Yeah, so the second one I wanted to mention is a young mum with fears of something happening to her at home with her child and no one being there to help, leaving both her and her child helpless and vulnerable. Now, these types of fears even are quite common amongst parents, but this one is specific to being at home, and her scary film is The Ring. Now, I don't know if you know that film, but it's basically about being attacked at home, and the people who are being attacked are typically on their own. She says she had nightmares for months after seeing it.
Yeah. So I think what you're suggesting is that some common time of life fears may have been linked to earlier experiences and influences.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems to relate to the emotional string theory.
Okay.
The theory is that we utilise earlier experiences to enable us to deal quickly with a threat or fears. And this forms an autonomic link between the two situations.
Okay, interesting. And yeah, of course, the film thing is just an example. There might be many other events and influences that affect our perception of fear.
Yeah, perception being the key word, because of course it's the perception of fear that causes the kind of stress and anxiety we talked about before, with all the unwanted effects on our health and well-being.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, our perception of what purpose fear serves. You and I have both worked with people suffering from fears and phobias over the years, and one of the things I've noticed is sometimes a disinclination to completely eradicate a fear. I've always believed this to be for two reasons. One, that the fear or phobia has been entrenched for such a long time, it's become part of that person's identity, and to give it up is to also give up a part of themselves. Secondly, there's often a belief that the fear itself is the thing that is protecting them from what they're afraid of.
Yeah, both strong reasons for not giving something up. And if a person is happier holding on to their fears rather than letting them go, perhaps that's okay.
I'm not entirely sure about that. For example, sometimes we pass our irrational fears on to others, like our children, or they can lie dormant and resurface years later as part of other insecurities. Fear rarely ever enhances our lives, except maybe for those who really enjoy a good bungee jump.
Yeah, and there's also the stack effect, where
Oh.
being in a fearful state causes us to overreact to things that wouldn't normally worry you, like the spider example.
Oh, what's that?
Right, if you've got a bit of fluff on your shirt and it's irritating your neck, you just brush it away, no worries there. If you're watching a film about spiders and it's starting to make you unnerved, then that little tickle on the back of your neck can make you scream and jump.
Oh, it's making me squirm just thinking about it. And all of that obviously sends those stress hormones sky high.
And all the issues that arise from that.
Yeah, which are huge. Experts divide the symptoms of stress overload into four main categories: cognitive, emotional, physical, and behavioural. And the list of symptoms in each category are quite extensive, too many to mention here, but to give you an idea, symptoms can range from things like addictions to muscle aches, high blood pressure to ulcers. They even include things like trouble with memory recall and ability to focus.
So, for clarity, you're not saying that everyone who's ever seen a scary movie is going to suffer all these symptoms.
No, the examples given are just that, illustrations of what could be. Those people we've quoted might actually live very happy, contented lives and be in the best of health. But for anyone who is suffering from any of the symptoms mentioned and is also aware of underlying fears, looking at resolving these along with any contributory factors is probably a very worthwhile exercise.
So I'm guessing you're going to give us some suggestions.
I am, because Cavaliers can tap dance.
Okay, you've gone off on one again. Matron, she's out of bed again.
It's a mnemonic for simple actions that we can all take to combat fears and anxieties without having to dwell on any of the details.
Okay.
So B is for breathing exercises, because studies have shown that changing our breathing can have a direct effect on the autonomic nervous system. C is for conscious thought. Taking time out to consciously change your state of mind takes back control and can neutralise the stress response. The second C is for changing your facial expressions. Studies have also shown that consciously changing the expression on your face can alter your mood, again affecting the autonomic nervous system and either instigating or negating the stress response. And finally, T for tapping.
Okay. Do you want to walk the listeners through these in more detail?
Given that that's the reason for this podcast, perhaps.
Yeah. Okay, can I just say that it's really worth practicing these exercises on a fairly regular basis, so that when you really need these tools to help you out in a scary or stressful situation, you're already used to using them.
Sound advice. Okay, let's start with breathing. There are many breathing exercises out there, but I'm going to talk you through Hara breathing. And clearly, if you have any sort of respiratory condition, you shouldn't do this exercise without checking with your doctor first.
Okay.
That said, you need to be sitting in a comfortable position. Are you comfortable?
Yep.
Your back needs to be upright and supported. Now I want you to place your right hand on your chest and the left hand on your abdomen. Another word I can't say, abdomen. Breathe in deeply through your nose. The breath should feel like it's coming from the stomach, so your left hand raises with the breath in. Can you feel that? You can breathe now.
All right. Yeah, yes, I feel that.
But while you're doing that, so the left hand comes out with the tummy and the right remains relatively still on your chest. Can you do that again? Because now I need you to breathe out again. So when you've taken that nice deep breath in, okay, then I want you to breathe or perhaps more blow out through your mouth. And as you do so, you should feel your left hand drop as your stomach goes in.
Yep.
Now obviously it's not your stomach, it's actually your diaphragm, but it feels like your stomach moving. Now some people have a problem breathing like this, and if you are one of those, you're probably inclined to shallow breathe. You're not on your own in this, but learning to breathe deeply in this way will pay great health dividends. Okay, once you've mastered this way of breathing, you're ready to move on to the next step. That includes you. Are you ready?
Okay, yep.
So in the same position as before, take a deep breath in through the nose for a count of 5. Then breathe or blow out through the mouth for a count of 6.
Yep.
Excellent. Now, if you can't breathe in and out for a count of 5 or 6, it's perfectly okay to start lower and work your way up. But remember to always count one more on the outward breath.
Okay.
And so concludes the Hara breathing exercise.
Great.
Andy, do you want to talk about how to consciously change a thought pattern?
Yeah. There are many ways to change thought patterns, but they all rely on the first thing, which is to notice how you're thinking. Once you see the pattern, then apply a pattern break. It's easy.
Okay, could you explain that?
So the best thing to do is to set this up in a relaxed state of mind, so you can use it later when you need to. Make sure you're free from distractions just for a few minutes.
Oh, I'm going to do this now. Okay.
And then think of a word, maybe safe.
Mm-hmm.
Then picture in your mind what safe could be to you. It could be at home in an armchair, sitting with a loved one on a beach.
Oh, I like that.
Whatever it means to you. But really picture it, and then notice all the feelings that you experience around that situation and the word safe. Keep practicing this exercise until just thinking or saying the word safe brings these feelings to mind.
Okay, but how does this help someone when they are actually feeling afraid or very agitated?
Well, once this has been practiced as described, it can be a really useful tool. As soon as you notice the fear rising, say the word or think the word safe and let the positive feelings associated with it wash over your thoughts, and be conscious of this change. This is a really good way to interrupt a pattern of rising fear before it causes chemical changes and results in a downward spiral.
Okay, excellent. That's a great tip. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good exercise and can be really empowering when you need it most. I think you said there's a second C in this mnemonic?
Yes, C for changing face. So, there have been studies that show a link between our facial expressions and our moods. Um, not just the moods conveyed by those expressions to others, but also to our own internal feelings and responses. So, while we might frown when we're not happy, we are also not very happy when we frown.
So you're saying that the mood follows the expression?
Not quite, more that it's a bit of a two-way street. So again, here is a useful exercise you can do that takes seconds but can be really effective. I'm going to get you to try it now while you're sitting listening to this. So, allow your face to become calm and expressionless. Very good. Now take a few seconds to feel the muscles in your face becoming more relaxed and completely neutral. Now, in order to achieve this, you might notice that your mind automatically becomes rather neutral as well. Now, I want you to make yourself frown. Really feel the change in the muscles of your face. Oh, that's looking scary. Notice how your mind and body feel when you really frown as hard as you can. You may even find yourself thinking in a different way. Oh, that's looking scary. Okay, now I want you to smile. Really smile. Feel the smile come from deep within you as it bursts uncontrollably onto your face, as if the sun had come out in your own head and you can only think of happy things. Maybe notice how your whole body's responding.
Yeah, it's really that simple. But I'm guessing it's much harder if you're already feeling down or anxious about something.
Yes, of course, and I'm not trying to diminish the importance of people's worries and concerns. It's just that often when we're feeling really low, those feelings and the resultant strain on the body and mind don't help us get out of the situation we find ourselves in. Having these tools in your arsenal can be really useful, and just like the conscious thought exercise you did, the more this particular exercise can be practiced in advance on little irritations in life, the better they'll work when you really need some strength and composure.
That said, you've one more thing up your sleeve that can be used in a moment without thought or planning.
Yes, the last letter in my mnemonic is T for tapping. Now, if anyone out there has come across tapping online, there may be a range of feelings on the subject. I'm not going to go into my thoughts on that here, except to say this: used as an in-the-moment pattern interrupt, few things beat it. It even works with children. So without going into great detail, I'm just going to tell you what to do and suggest you try it out. And if you want to know more, let me know.
Okay, so what do we need to do?
Okay, so just by way of demonstration, I want you to imagine the last time you felt slightly annoyed about something. Nothing major, just a feeling of being a bit miffed.
That's an easy one, yeah.
Now, while you're thinking about that, I want you to use a flat hand and just tap rhythmically on your chest, just below the knobbly bits of your collarbones. Excellent. Now, you may notice that your memory of the event begins to fade and your slightly miffed feelings begin to feel maybe a bit silly or at least a little unnecessary.
Yeah.
You may also notice that your tapping begins to slow as you feel less annoyed. Now, sometimes that doesn't happen, and that's also fine. You can consciously choose to slow the tapping yourself, and your mood should begin to follow it. So, now you've experienced that, next time you notice yourself getting annoyed, feeling anxious, or scared of something, simply tap in the same way on your chest, just below the knobbly bits of your collarbones. Now, there's no need to think about why you feel the way you do, or analyse the situation, or chant any sort of mantra. You simply stay in the emotion and tap for a few seconds. Now, if you've got a child who's getting emotional, you can do the same with them. Show them how you tap your chest when things are getting to you, and get them to copy you. Get them to notice also that it makes them smile. This is great for terrible twos and tyrannical teens. It just breaks that negative cycle and allows reason to join the party.
Does it really make children smile when they're upset?
It does if you tell them convincingly enough.
So you're suggesting that we've solved everyone's fear issues and sorted out their parenting challenges?
Well, maybe not. But you know what they say, every little helps. And what I do know is that feeling anxious and nervous about something doesn't get anything sorted. Take the edge off the emotions and you can take action and hopefully live a bit more calm and happy existence from, well, today.
Oh, well, some great tools there, as always. Now, as always, you can visit the website for more information or drop us an email if you have any questions on today's podcast. Tracy, what's the details again?
The website is www.mindandbodyworks.com. Remember, Bodyworks is spelled BODYWORX. Now, there is a link in the podcast description, and you can find us on Facebook as Mind and Bodyworks. Don't forget the X. And if you want to send an email, the address is mail, MAIL, at mindandbodyworks.com.
With an X.
With an X.
Right. Well, I'm afraid...
Are you?
Yes. I'm afraid it's time for me to go and make a cup of tea.
Ooh.
So, bye-bye for now.
Till next week, then, when we will be tackling some more of the challenges of human nature. Stay safe and well in the meantime, and thank you for listening. Bye for now.